Hello everybody, Matt again, back with September Experiment / Watcha reading. And today I lied, I did not read a classic work of Shonen because I read Seven Ghost, which in those in the know will know is actually a Josei book, which is something I did not, because honestly this being put out by Biz, there being no shoujo beat or anything on the side, I was like, oh well, you know, this must be a shonen book. No, I'm proven wrong yet again. So this is a book that is written and illustrated by a duo for the first time on this YouTube channel, with the writing done by Yuki Amemiya and then the illustration done by Yukino Ichihara. This is a book that, weirdly, I picked up even before I started collecting manga again, like not long after I moved to Denmark, and so this has travelled around with me quite a bit. And I hadn't read it. I don't know what it was about it. I think I flicked through, I thought, oh well, the art is of a decent quality, and I just never explored it. As I mentioned, it ran in a Josei magazine, which is Ichijinsha's monthly comic Zero Sum, which is a magazine I don't think I've ever covered any books from, interestingly enough. I think the Fate books are in there? I don't know, I could be completely making that up, but it's the only thing in my head when I hear those words that is coming to mind. Anyways, this is a story about a young boy called Tato Klein, and he is essentially growing up in a land that is called Barsberg, which, take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. It reminds me a lot from that first page of, reminds me a little bit of D.Gray-man. And then they end up being people who fight with magical words, for lack of a better term. They use this whole magic system called Xiphon. And yeah, you can see him fighting his friend Mikage here. And these two have a bit of a, oh, we're best friends forever, even though we're in this military academy, we're all going to grow up and we're going to fight in the war together. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. And naturally, they enter this exam. It's very extreme. I was like, oh man, where's this going? They actually have to fight this convict to the death. And you get this very surly looking commander dude who steps in and kills them. And I honestly should have probably twigged that this was a Josei title, because everyone is Bishonen. But, you know, such is life when you're flicking through some of this stuff. And what ends up happening, and the twist in the story, and why these boys don't go to war, is essentially Tato realises through a flashback after overhearing this surly gentleman talking that he was involved in a massacre in his childhood, and he is the lone survivor of a kingdom called Rags. And why this is important was because their king and most of the kingdom was wiped out because they possessed a weapon that is called the Eye of Mikhail, and essentially it held a balance with the other empire, with Barsberg, and they went and naturally they committed a genocide to try and get this weapon again. Some more adult themes. I should have twigged that this was not shonen, but it is what it is. He then is forced to grab Mikage and essentially try and convince them that his friend had nothing to do with his escape after being locked up, and that he is, you know, a hostage. And what ends up happening is surly General Man, who I cannot remember the name of because I think it's only mentioned once or twice in the book, casts a spell on him, knocks him out of the air when he's escaping on a bike, and he ends up waking up in a church with a lot of Catholic iconography and stuff going on, and I'm like, oh, hi D.Gray-man, how is it going? I will say, I did not like this book as much as D.Gray-man, as much as I think the idea of Xiphon as a power is cool, as much as this idea of Veloran, this Grim Reaper god. And then you have the seven ghosts of the title, who are the people who kind of keep this god of death, who's also on the back cover, in check. And from there, essentially, he starts to learn more about the people in the church. You start to realise that all of these priests have very distinct personalities. Like, one of them is called Frau, and I think he is the main pairing with Tato, even though I haven't seen really anything of their relationship in this book. And, you know, there's some gross stuff, like there's eye fish stew, and you're like, oh, that looks rank, and then they turn it into a joke. And generally, the mythology starts to build, the mythology starts to become interesting. There's lots of like ghosts and spirits and the dead, and then you start to really question what the army is trying to achieve. And naturally, by the end of the book, it all comes to a head, because even though they're not supposed to go into this church in District 7, in an area that's called the District of God, they end up coming in anyway, and Tato realizes that he has this Eye of Mikhail in himself all along, even though he doesn't use it. And the surly general gentleman has possessed Mikage, and essentially at the end it pairs off to set them up for a fight to the death. It sounds very serious. It kind of is. But overall, I kind of enjoyed it. I don't think it won me over as quickly as D.Gray-man did. And again, so this started running in June of 2005, where D.Gray-man was a year earlier in May 2004. So I imagine, if anything, this is probably influenced by D.Gray-man, though, you know, Catholic iconography and stuff in manga isn't necessarily anything new, even if it is my favourite thing. I don't know. I thought this was an okay first volume. I wouldn't rush to pick it up, but I will probably see if I can find the other volumes cheap, or hopefully, if we ever get the Viz up here in Europe, they'll be on there, because again, it's not going to be on Manga Plus, because it's not published by Shueisha. I'll see how it goes. If you have read Seven Ghost, I almost said Zero Ghost or Null Ghost or something when I looked at the book cover, then please let me know, because I'm very curious about it. I also saw there was an anime, but apparently it never finished. If you have read it, let me know in the comments down below if it's worth checking out. But anyways, I'll be back tomorrow, folks, with an actual work of classic shonen, I promise you. We'll see how it goes. Right, until then though, everybody, be sure, as always, to read on. Take care. Bye.